Alright, so today we're going to be doing a tier list of the gods that I've fought so far, which is, I believe, 8? Or am I tripping? I low-key don't remember. But yeah, we're going to be ranking them on a tier list. I already know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this tier list for some reason, because I might have some certain fan favorites lower than they expect them to, and I am fine with that. You know, people could call me a Poseidon fanboy, but hey, anybody that's actually read the series and has actually seen my arguments for certain characters being as high as they are, they'll understand, and I'll briefly go over the tiers here. We're going to be doing S, A, B, and C. So yeah, I apologize for not posting in a while. I have a lot of videos being made currently as we speak. Work and celebrating my birthday that just happened this week actually has had me very busy, so that is my bad. But anyways, let's get right into the ranking then, with the first tier being S tier. Alright, so what I would consider the strongest god at their peak, which, if I need to make it clear, this is going to be all of the gods at their very peak, bloodlusted. So I could probably do an in-character tier list some other time, and the rankings would change because of how they act in character. They would lose more likely than win. But this is them at their pinnacle, trying to go for the kill, out of character, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And what I would deem as S tier is the character that could beat everybody under him more likely than not. And I definitely see that there was only maybe 3 people in contention for this. And if you didn't know, and I might spoil the next tier, but I do think the first 3 gods to have fought are the strongest gods. Still, I don't think any god has surpassed any of those 3. But who I would deem as number 1 at his peak is Adamus Zeus. A quick rundown: he was able to take his own punches, being true gods of right and left, time punches, taking divine axe, meteor jab. He was able to take a lot of damage, and he's actually able to withstand his form for a very decent amount of time now. So I would definitely place him at S, with probably the fastest attack that we could at least infer could damage somebody's jaw or even knock them out, as he did with Kronos. Although we know that the time punch isn't his strongest attack, it is definitely his most blinding attack. That is probably a guaranteed hit to everybody on the roster that has fought god-wise. So yeah, Zeus is definitely my only S tier for this. And yeah, let's move on to A tier. Alright, so for A tier, we have Poseidon and Thor. Yes, I do have Poseidon at number 2. Yes, I do have him above Thor. And that is because both gods, respectively, are the fastest, being Poseidon, and the strongest, being Thor. So we have the fastest and the strongest god at A tier. And Poseidon basically speed blitzes everybody on the roster. And Thor could basically one-shot most of this roster, besides maybe Hajun and maybe Hercules. But he would at least severely damage literally everybody, and especially with the argument of him having an unavoidable hit, that even if you avoid it, it'll just gain speed, and you wouldn't technically avoid it because it would just be in the process of building up speed. So you definitely have a very fast attack with very lethal attack potency. And I know a lot of people say that Poseidon doesn't have the best AP, or that Poseidon doesn't have the best durability, but we know for a fact that his speed is the fastest in the verse, outside of the time punch. 40-Day Flood is a omnidirectional attack that will basically hunt down and murder blitz anybody else on the roster. Even if you could see his movements, you can't, that does not mean that you could react to it. So there's arguments for Kojiro and Buddha not being able to react to him. Adam's eyes is another topic or another subject that I could probably go into a video later on. But here in ROR, if you don't know, I believe that everybody could hurt everybody else in the verse. I know a lot of people are like, oh, planetary statements, universal statements. that doesn't really matter in this case, especially in ROR. Any human could damage any other human because they're human, and Volunders are there to damage the gods. And all we know is that divine weapons could hurt divine people, so yeah. Yes, I am aware that Poseidon and Thor is a very, very relative topic, and they are definitely in a league above their own, and they could both challenge Zeus most likely, but I would say more often than not, Zeus would take both of them and win. So yeah, let's move on to B tier. So for B tier, we have Buddha, Hades, Shiva, and Hajun. Now for S and A tier, I had them in a specific order because that's what I believe. For B and C, the contention on anybody beating anybody is very high. So I think everybody in B tier has arguments and advantages against everybody else, and I'll just go over it. So the person I would most likely put at the top is potentially Buddha. Future vision, to people that aren't incredibly fast like Hades and Hajun, there are arguments for Hades being like maybe similar speed to Poseidon, but realistically not as pinnacle Poseidon. So it's a lot harder to say that Hades could speed blitz Buddha. And Shiva, being at least decently fast with his after images, is probably the best contender to beat Buddha here. But Buddha does have future vision. He does have an incredible amount of willpower. He does have shields with 6 staffs, that 0 sword, that one-shot Samsara cycle. And he's able to slice through Hajun, who has divine weapon durability. So Buddha is definitely a powerhouse, and I would most likely rank him at the top of B. Him winning more often not against the rest of the cast, with maybe only Shiva and Hades potentially beating him. I think Buddha above Hajun is relatively assured and isn't really contended in the community. Hades does have tremendous power, and with his power he does have that air that even if you dodge it, you can still get maimed by the air. So he does have a sort of AoE effect to his attacks, and his attacks are just so powerful that most likely any defense that any of these three could provide would be damaged and might be overpowered. Hades also has an incredible amount of willpower to keep fighting, so he's also in the same boat as Buddha with just pure willpower. Decent speed relative to Poseidon's early thrust, so he's definitely a contender for sure in this tier, and I definitely would say that he's up here. He is a chief god, so I'm not surprised he's up here. Shiva could arguably have Duraneg with his flames in Kandava Karma. His dance makes him unpredictable. He does have the fastest feats here in this tier anyways. After image wise, he was able to blitz Raiden multiple times. And although you can make the argument that, oh, Raiden was reacting in his Kandava Karma form, Raiden was definitely on the low end of relativity to Kandava Karma, and you could honestly argue that Raiden was amped during that fight. But Shiva is up there. His durability could be arguably the worst in this tier, but his willpower is immense. He does have very growing willpower, and you could even argue that with his willpower, his actual stats increase. Next, we have Hajun. I originally shitted on Hajun for most of the time because I didn't think he was impressive, because everybody would flex his AP feed of destroying half of hell. But when we see what he considered to destroy half of hell, people consider it as a cosmological feat, but realistically it was just him destroying buildings, so he's like multi-building level. But I can't ignore the fact that he does have some serious piercing damage with his is it drill of it's his drill, whatever, heaven piercing drill I think is what it's called, and his blaze of glory. He's definitely an AP threat, and his durability is no joke, being the durability of a divine weapon, being able to stop even Buddha's Samsara cycle's one-shot attack, and was consistently shown destroying multiple divine weapons, piercing the shield, destroying the actual staff of 6 realms, and destroying Samsara cycle. So you could probably make the argument that Hajun has the best durability here, but he was even able to arguably tank Samsara cycle. You could argue that maybe Buddha being damaged and being pierced could have potentially weakened the attack and stopped it from cleanly cutting through Hajun's arm. So I'll leave this whole tier up to you guys. I think Buddha is most likely at the top, with either Hades and Shiva coming in next, and Hajun coming in most likely last. But I think this whole tier is debatable. I might look into it deeper to finally solidify my tiering on this, or like my placements on this tier, but it's safe to say that they're relatively in the same tier statistically. So yeah, let's move on to C tier, to our last two remaining gods. So now we have C tier being Zero and Hercules. I know people are like, oh, Hercules and Zero, you know, you need to stop shitting on them. I just don't see them beating anybody in B tier. Can they potentially put up a fight against people in B tier? Sure. But I just don't think that they're on the same caliber or the same level as anybody in B tier, A tier, or S tier. So I would most likely place them a little lower. So I'd place them in C tier, both of them respectively. Now, who wins between Zero and Hercules is also a topic I'm not really sure of. This is also a very debatable topic. Zero is actually stated to be equal to Buddha, and the only thing that was giving Buddha an edge was future vision. Hercules was stated to have Zeus strength, but was later debunked as Zeus was able to handle a punch from Hercules and Ares casually in his crippled form. Hercules has his labors, he has Exodus, he has some serious AP, has some serious durability, and has some serious willpower. Zero doesn't have that same willpower or that same durability realistically, but at his peak we did see him being able to take an axe slash from Buddha and still stay standing. Storm formation, that like black liquid form, that huge cleaver, those are all very, very dangerous for Hercules to handle. And although he was able to handle Rondo Blessing, I do think Zero might not just like instantly kill Hercules with his giant axe, and either side would have to put serious effort to put down the other one permanently. I do definitely see either one killing off the other, so again, I'll leave this up to you guys, but they're definitely on this lowest tier together, and they're definitely debatable as to who would win. But yeah, that's basically all I gotta really say. I'm sorry for the audio quality, I'm sorry for my voice. Being sick doesn't really help, so yeah, peace. I'll make a humans list next.